Hello, everyone, and welcome to AHS Countdown. I'm your host, Reese Kinder, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Charlie McGowan and Andrew Faircloth. And today, we got a matchup between the Auburn High Tigers and the Smith Station Panthers. Auburn coming off of a big win last week against the Central Red Devils, which now puts Auburn at number 1 in the state, and Smith Station coming off of a tough loss to Jag last week, which puts them at 0-7. So Smith Station not having one of the best seasons on record these past few years. So now let's start off with the Smith Station Panthers. Smith Station is 0-7 on the season and 0-4 in Region 2 play so far this season. To put into perspective how tough this season has been for them, they've only scored 51 points on offense this season, and that is the lowest amount of points scored by a high school football team in Alabama so far this season. And with all that being said, what are some things that Smith Station team needs to do to secure a win tonight?
For the offensive side of the ball, Smith Station really needs to run the ball really well. They have a good quarterback through the run game. He's more of a dual threat quarterback. That's Cohen Thomas. He can run the ball pretty well. He's averaging 42 rushing yards as a quarterback. They also have a good running back in Jalen Huff, 62.5 rushing yards per game. If they can get the rushing attack going, I think they got a chance in this one.
Yeah, Charlie, just to preview the Smith Station defense, like Reese mentioned earlier, Smith Station's had a tough road this season, giving up around 244 points on defense. And if you're Smith Station, you kind of have to mirror what Central did this past week against Auburn. Find a way how to stop Omar in the run game and force Kilgore to air it out.
Yeah, I mean, last year's Smith Station game, it was at Smith Station between these two teams, and Smith Station actually scored first in the game, and Auburn was a little worried there in that first quarter. Even though Auburn did win the game, I think it was 46-8, but Smith Station put up a little bit of fight to start the game last year. But with that being said, now we're going to move on to the Auburn Tigers, who are coming off probably one of the biggest wins in program history the past few years. And this Tigers team now number 1 in the state, and this Tigers team 6-0 after defeating Central last week and then defeating the Jaguars 2 weeks ago. So, and they're 4-0 in region play as well. So what do you guys think the Tigers need to do to pull off a win against Smith Station?
Yeah, so the Auburn offense last week had a great week. Obviously, put up 38 points against the former number 1 team in Auburn High School and Central on the road, by the way. But this week, I think they need to just reestablish the run game. Like Andrew was highlighting just a second ago, Central did a really good job in the first half of just honing in on Omar since, he's arguably, in my opinion, the best running back in the state of Alabama. They really honed in on stopping him. He only had 77 yards. He still had 2 rushing touchdowns, but that was more in the second half. But in the first half, they gave Auburn a scare by just stopping that run game and making Kilgore air it out, which, he did a good job finding Peyton Plott for 2 touchdowns and Askew with some help there as well. So if the Tigers can get that run game going again, I think it'll be hard for Smith Station.
Yeah, Charlie, piggyback off of that. Last week, big win against Central. The defense played a big factor in that, holding Central to 21 points in the first half. But the reason the Tigers were able to hold Central the way they did was they were able to load the box and make it hard for Central to run the ball on them. Jackson Lovren had 14 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Caleb Pitts, 8 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Around 8 tackles for loss on the game. The Tigers were able to load the box, stop the run, and I would look for them to continue to do that tonight against Smith Station and just have a good night.
Yeah, honestly, you feel like last week against Central, the Tigers defense was really able to come up with some big stops, especially that 4th and 1, where a lot of people thought the game could have been over if Central got that, and they possibly would have went down and went up 2 scores. Everybody was kind of nervous, but luckily the Tigers defense was able to get a stop there. And then Charlie, as you mentioned, the Tigers offense has just been incredible this season with Jackson Kilgore having arguably one of the best games of his season so far this year. And now with that, we will move into implications for the game. And, being a homecoming game for the Tigers, I don't think the Tigers have lost a homecoming game in a while, actually. And, what do you guys think the Tigers need to do what do you think they need to improve on in order to get a win tonight?
Yeah, kind of like I mentioned earlier, reestablishing the run game would be huge for the Tigers just because, not necessarily the confidence went down in it, but it'd just be nice to get it going again, into, the rest of the season. Still got a few tough matchups left. So if they could reestablish the run game, they didn't have a great job. And offensive line had a pretty good game last week, but if they can get more confidence down there in the trenches, I think that'd be huge.
Yeah, Charlie, coming into this one, the Tigers need to find a way to clean it up in the secondary. There was a lot of points in that game where Andrew Allred from Central was really able to find his receivers in space. The safeties had trouble covering at times, so if you're the Tigers in this one, you need to find a way to clean it up in the secondary and just continue to stop the run and just clean it up in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of secondary, last week we saw Cortez Cooks at the start of the game. Dalen Upshaw, the Central wide receiver, actually caught a pass. I think it was like a 70-yard pass, but it was called back due to a holding call from the offensive line. So that's one thing I think all season that we've been looking at is the secondary really has to improve on coverages and everything because, I mean, the North Miami game and the Vestavia Hills game, a lot of broken coverages could have led to some touchdowns, but it didn't because the defensive line was able to stop those teams from scoring. But now with that, we will move into the keys to the game. Now Auburn has different X factors that can help them take over a game. What do y'all think these X factors are tonight against Smith Station?
Well, kind of been focusing on the run game for the Tigers recently, but this passing game last week had an absolutely massive game. Jackson Kilgore, was forced to throw the ball, and he found Peyton Plott for 156 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He also found Joshua Askew on multiple accounts. Jackson Kilgore had a great game. Just to mention, he was 13 for 19, 278 yards, and 3 touchdowns to the air. He was just going crazy. I think Tigers have the passing game going as well as the rushing game. It's just impossible to stop for just about anybody in the state.
Yeah, X factors for the Auburn High defense coming into this one. I would say Jackson Lovern to have a good night again tonight. Like I mentioned, last week led the Tigers in tackles like he's had all season. He leads the team in tackles actually. 14 tackles, 3 tackles for loss against Central. And I look for him to make a big impact on this game. I think Smith Station is probably going to try to hand the ball off to Jaden Huff like Charlie mentioned earlier. So I would look for Lovern to have a big night and shut down that Smith Station running attack.
And now we will move into tonight's player profile segment where we will highlight one player on offense and defense that will be crucial for tonight's performance against Smith Station and who you guys think that player will be.
Yeah, I think for me, I've highlighted a lot of the receiving core throughout these last couple of player profiles. I think this week Auburn's going to try to find more players, kind of just spread the rock around since they're not necessarily not necessarily anticipating a close game in this one, but I think they'll find Ryan Birchfield a lot, trying to spread the ball around. He's been a really good blocking tight end, but I think they're going to try to find him through the air a little bit. Maybe he gets a good stat sheet after this one.
On the defense side of the ball, I would look for Michael Foster to make a big impact in this one. He had a big game last week against Central, coming off with 2 sacks against a talented Central offensive line, so I'd look for him to have another big game tonight.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Birchfield's had a very good season, and Michael Foster and that whole defensive line just been incredible this season. And now we're going to send you to a quick commercial break. Don't go away. Next up is the Friday night lineup, and our guest picker will be Mr. Jared Dillard.
Eyes on the road, hands on the wheel, safely drive that automobile. Eyes on the road, hands on the wheel.
Welcome back to AHS Countdown, and now we are ready for everyone's favorite segment, the Friday night lineup, where we will pick some of the best games around the state of Alabama. And we have our second guest picker this year. He is the proud owner of AHS Mass Media. Let's give a warm welcome to our guest picker, Mr. Jared Dillard. Well, with that being said, we will now move into our matchups tonight. And our first matchup is the Enterprise Wildcats at the Opelika Bulldogs. This is a great matchup. It's an in-region matchup. Opelika, 6-1, only lost to Auburn, and Enterprise 4-2, actually one of their lost to Auburn. So both these teams have a thing in common. They lost to Auburn. So with that being said, who do you guys have in this game?
Yeah, really 2 talented teams, like you said. Auburn went on the road to Enterprise and handled them pretty well, and they went to they're at home against Opelika, and Opelika played a really good game. 2 just team full of athletes. Enterprise having a really stout defense in Zion Grady and Eric Winters. I feel like we've been highlighting both them every week. But Opelika also has a really good defense with Malik Autry and others. So I think Opelika has too much of an offense for Enterprise to handle. I have Opelika at home in this one.
Yeah, Charlie, I'm had to agree with you. But this is going to be a very competitive, arguably the most competitive game we have on this slate this week. I think Enterprise comes into this one a little desperate for a region win. They picked up a big win against Carver, but they dropped 2 close ones against Auburn and Central. Opelika, on the other hand, fighting for that second place in our region, and I like Opelika in this one, though. I think Calvin Hughley is going to have a field day on that Enterprise defense, and I think the Bulldogs will win it at home.
Dillard, who do you have?
It's easy. It's Opelika next game.
This guy.
A little change of scenery for our guest picker this week.
But I'm gonna go with you guys here. I'm gonna go with Opelika. I'm gonna go with you and Dillard, Andrew. I'm gonna say Opelika gets a win, and I think this Opelika team, very good team, and I mean just a lot of high-powered offense on this team. Just a great overall matchup that we have here in this first matchup that we're picking. But with that being said, now we'll move on to our next matchup. This is 6A and 7A. Prattville recently moved down to 6A this season, but is Prattville at Hewitt-Trussville. Hewitt-Trussville is number 9 in the state. And, I mean, this is a great matchup. Prattville, really unexpected with the way they started. I believe they started 4-0 on the season. And Hewitt-Trussville, good as always, 5-2 so far. And actually might be one of the teams that Auburn has to face in the playoffs this season. But with that being said, who do you have between Prattville and Hewitt-Trussville?
Yeah, another really talented matchup here. Like you said, Prattville with a really hot start with starting 4-0. And, I mean, you have Hewitt-Trussville on the other side who's just played really good games so far. Hewitt has a really good defense, and, I mean, they played a really good fight against Thompson last weekend. And they lost to Hoover, but that was a pretty close game as well. I think Hewitt, honestly, is a really sleeper team to watch out for in the playoffs. I think Hewitt handles this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm had to agree with you, Charlie. Coming into this one, Prattville, a historically good program, multiple state championship appearances in the early 2000s. But I think they're just now finding their footing. They had a couple rough years here recently. I think Hewitt's going to take this one at home. Hewitt is a very talented team, very talented defense who hasn't given up over 16 points in a matchup all year. Lost to 2 good teams in Hoover and Thompson, both close matchups, possessions away from being undefeated. So I like Hewitt in this one.
Dillard, who do you have?
I keep forgetting Dillard's here.
Well, Reese, defense wins championships, and that's definitely something that Hewitt has. And every time I've seen Prattville against Auburn, offense is something that they don't have. So I'm going to go with Hewitt-Trussville with the big win.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to agree with all of y'all. I'm going to say Hewitt wins this one. I know Prattville's had a few struggles recently with losing 2 games in a row, and I think Hewitt's going to take this one at home and improve to 6-2 on the season. But with that being said, now we will go to probably one of the bigger in-region games this week. Obviously last week Auburn and Central was probably game of the year. And one of the best region games we've seen in a long time. And now we have another region game between number 7 Carver, who is 5-1 on the season, who lost to Enterprise by 3 last week, at number 2 Central, who lost to Auburn last week 38-33 in a close one. And who do you guys have between Carver and Central?
Yeah, just another really good game this week. Carver's a really talented team. They have a lot of athletes, especially on their offense. A tough loss last week against Enterprise, but I mean, honestly, I'm scared for Auburn to play Carver this year. They're on the road, so Carver, really talented team, but Central they're gonna be mad about last week against Auburn. I mean, it's hard at home losing to an in-region. I mean, Auburn Central a pretty big rivalry. I think Central does pull away. I think Carver makes it close though.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. I think this is going to be a close one, but Coach Patrick Nix for the Central Red Devils, I think he's going to have his boys ready for this one. Central, they'll have to find a way to stop, like kind of how they did against Auburn. They found a way to stop Omar. Carver's the same. They have a very talented running back, and Alabama commit Anthony Rogers, 4-star. But I think Central's going to stop him, and I think they're going to win a close one at home.
Honestly, I wasn't paying attention because I was fixing something back here. I don't know who Central's playing, but it's Central, and they're still pretty good. So I'm going to pick the Red Devils. I don't care if they're playing, Opelika or if it's Carver. I think it's Carver. Or if
Carver.
Is it Carver?
Yeah.
Okay, they could be playing Jesus, and I'll probably still be Central. So I'm gonna go with Central on that one.
Well, you heard it there from Mr. Jared Dillard with the crazy pick there, but I'm gonna go with Central in this one. I'm gonna say Central wins because, like you guys said, Central's gonna be really mad after losing to rivals Auburn last week, and I think Central gets a close win, and they will improve to 6-1 on the season and be second in the region. And now we will move into our next game. It is 5-2 Fairhope at number 4, Mary G. Montgomery, who is 6-1 on the season. Very impressive, 2 years from this Mary G. Montgomery team. Last year had basically a Cinderella season. Nobody really expected them to do what they did last year. Went undefeated in the regular season, and then this year 6-1 again. Just a great program in Mary G. Montgomery. But who do you guys have between Fairhope and Mary G. Montgomery?
Yeah, sneaky good matchup right here. Fairhope, a pretty solid team, sitting at 4-2. Mary G. Montgomery is just really talented. I mean, they had an undefeated regular season last year. They've only lost one this year. It's out-of-state team. I think Mary G. Montgomery is too much for Fairhope to handle.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Charlie on this one. Fairhope coming in this one. I think it's going to be a close game in region. Fairhope, like we mentioned, Mary G. Montgomery really had a chokehold on that region down there last year. I want to say Fairhope's going to come in and keep it close, but I think Mary G. Montgomery is too talented, and I think they're going to run away with this one at home.
Well, Dillard, who do you have?
I don't really know these two teams very well, but I know that Mary G. Montgomery has the Minnesota Vikings logo, but it's like light blue, and the Vikings are undefeated. So I'm going to go with Mary G. Montgomery.
I heard Justin Jefferson joined Mary G. Montgomery too.
Okay. That's a very good pick there from Mr. Jared Dillard. And now I'm going to pick, and I'm going to take Mary G. Montgomery here. I'm going to take Mary G. Montgomery in this one. I think MGM's got it. They've had a great season so far. Only one close loss to start the season, and I think MGM gets a big win at home against Fairhope to make their chances even better to possibly clinch for the playoffs. And our next matchup will be between two 6A teams. It is number 10 Chelsea, who is 6-0, at number 4 Spain Park, who is also 6-0. Both undefeated teams. This is a big matchup. A lot of implications going in this game. Who do you guys have between Chelsea and Spain Park?
Yeah, really big Birmingham matchup this week. 2 undefeated teams. Chelsea really talented in Spain Park, picking up a few big wins early in the season. Also, I'm going to go with Chelsea on the road. First away team I've picked this week, and I think Chelsea gets it done.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you, Charlie. Chelsea coming into this one, I think it'll be a close game. They've had a very impressive season. They haven't had as much success as they've had here this season in recent history. Spain Park just this year being relegated to 6A. A lot of experts picked Spain Park to be a contender in 6A this year, and they picked up big wins against Hoover. So I'm going to go with Spain Park, and I think they're going to dominate this one from start to finish. I like Spain Park.
Yeah, Dillard, who do you have?
Well, I did some research back on the computer over here, and I found out that Chelsea, this one right here, you see this one right here? And I found out that Chelsea are the Hornets and Spain Park are the Jaguars. And the last time I checked the Animal Kingdom, Jaguars are better than Hornets. So I'm going to go with Spain Park on this one.
A very interesting take again from Jared Dillard there. But now I'm going to pick Spain Park in this matchup. I think Spain Park gets a big win at home. Number 4 in 6A. Spain Park's had a very good season. This team's going to be a team to look out for in the playoffs this year. And I think Spain Park gets a dub at home against Chelsea. Well, now we are going to go into our final matchup of the night. It is the 0-7 Smith Station Panthers at the number 1 Auburn Tigers. And, this game, Auburn coming in 6-0 after beating Central. Who do you guys got between the Auburn Tigers and Smith Station Panthers?
Yeah, homecoming week for the Tigers. Smith Station's got a tall task in front of them, to say the least. I think for any way for Panthers to win this game is they're going to have to win the time of possession battle by a lot. They're going to have to keep the ball rushing, and they're going to have to keep the ball in their possession as much as possible, keep it away from Jackson Kilgore and the Auburn offense. I just don't see it happening. I got the Tigers big in this one.
Yeah, Charlie, I think Auburn, if you're Auburn, you're the number one team in the state, and you have to play like the number one team in the state. And if you're the number one team, you play disciplined football. You know Smith Station is coming in here desperate for a win, 0-7, haven't picked up a win all year. I think the Tigers dominate this one, and I think the Tigers win big at home.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of y'all here. I think Auburn gets a big win at home. You know, Smith Station not having one of the better seasons on record so far this season. I think Auburn gets a big win. And Dillard, who do you got?
Look, I know I graduated from Smith Station. I graduated class of 2013. 2013, great year. I don't like to rub it in, but Smith Station beat Auburn that year. 34-18. Will not forget that. The last time Smith Station was here to play a game, I got the extra yard teacher award from Coach Norton. I was presented that at midfield, and then Auburn proceeded to put up the worst loss in Smith Station history, 63-0. I do not believe I'm being presented an award this year, so I think the score will be a little bit lower. So Smith's going to keep it close. But I know who pays my paycheck, Dr. Pignato, shout out. So I'm going to pick.
Say it.
I'm going to pick Auburn to win this ball game. Oh, I can't see. I'm pretty sure this thing has lights in it. But I'm gonna speak out the eye hole. But I'm gonna pick Auburn to win this game because I'm loyal to the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Well, that is gonna do it here from the studio.
Hold up, Reese. Let me get to the thing first.
Hope you enjoy.
Hold up. Okay. All right. Sign out. Okay, you can sign out now, Reese. Go.
All right. Thank you for watching AHS Countdown. We hope you enjoy the game, and we will see you guys at the half.